If you're looking for a compact yet fully capable front bumper for your 2016 through 2023 Toyota Tacoma, this Barricade HD2 Front Bumper with the LED fog lights is a great solution. Now this is definitely for the taco owner who wants more of that high clearance pre-runner look to the front of their truck, especially great for Tacoma seeing off-road trails that need a lot of clearance, or even if you just want a drastic change in styling. This option also comes with auxiliary lighting if you want a bumper that not only offers tough protection and a sleek look, but also includes provisions for better visibility, whether you want an easy way to add accessory lights or your factory fog lights are just not cutting it. I do want to mention that this bumper does require trimming to the factory fender flares in order to install it, so keep that in mind that there is some modification required with this setup. Now this bumper has a full width design wrapping around the sides for a well-fitted appearance, and of course it has more of a compact build to it, which is great for increasing the front approach angles and making some room for bigger tires on the outside, while also making any oversized wheel and tire combo really pop, especially with a wider or more aggressive offset. Now this also includes filler plates for underneath the headlights to fill in the open space and add protection to the lighting, making for a clean appearance. Now in the center, this also includes a light bar mount and mesh cover plates to complete the appearance if you choose not to add one on right away or at all. Now the outer wings, however, will have provisions for the included 3-inch cube lights that consist of bright white high output LEDs that will outshine your factory fogs and make a big difference when it comes to visibility on the street and any off-road trail at night. Now this is made of a tough steel plate construction, and while the build is shorter in height, it does come out from the front of the truck enough to take the brunt of any impact or hazard that this would potentially come in contact with. Now to protect this steel, this also has a textured black powder coat finish on top, which is a 2-stage process with an epoxy pre-coat and then a powder coating to fight off rust, being great if you live in a tougher climate. The lighting is also tough with long-lasting efficient LEDs, an aluminum housing for good heat dispersion, a polycarbonate lens, and a full wiring harness for a plug-and-play design. This kit also comes with all of the necessary hardware and brackets to install it that are also powder-coated steel for strength, making the bumper a straightforward swap when it comes time to install it. Now this is about $1,300, which is fairly affordable for a full-width front bumper when checking out the category as a whole. Now compared to other front-end protection solutions in the category, this is a full swap that changes the clearance and capability of the front rather than options that mount over your factory system. Now it also includes accessory lighting and allows options for more lighting to be mounted up, which allows you to customize this down the line if you choose to do so. Now regardless, this comes down to your lifestyle, so if a full front bumper and that pre-runner style look is what you're in search of, then this is a solid choice for you. Install here is a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking about 2 hours in order to install it. Again, I do want to mention that you may have to modify your factory fender flares in order to fit this bumper up, but regardless, it comes with everything that you need, including the wiring harness for the lighting. Now, at this point, I am going to hand it over to one of our installers. They're going to show you a detailed breakdown on how you can bolt this and wire this up to your Tacoma at home. So that wraps it up for me. Let's get to the install.
All right, for this install, you're going to need a 3/8 ratchet, a trim tool, the provided Allen keys, a 10, 14, and 16 millimeter socket, 10 millimeter wrench, 14 millimeter wrench, and a 16 millimeter wrench. Today we're going to be installing a front bumper on a Tacoma, but first we're going to watch a quick uninstall video and we'll meet you here when you get back.
So the first step to our install is to take off our grill. You're going to need a 10 millimeter socket for this, and you're also going to need a trim removal tool. So we're going to take out the bolts first. There are 2 up at the top. I'm going to use that 10 millimeter socket to remove those. And then we can remove the clips on either side. So over on this side, on either side of the grill, we're going to just have a pop clip. What I'm going to do is just take the trim removal tool and pop that out of place. And we can do the same thing for the other side. So at this point, now that the hardware is out of our grill, we can just go ahead and remove it by pulling forward. And then what we can do next is start to disassemble our bumper. Our next step is to take off our lower splash shield. Now on either side, there's gonna be 2 bolts behind the splash shield. I'm gonna be removing those with a 10mm socket, and then the remaining bolts are gonna be on the front side of the splash shield. This may be a little bit difficult to see. However, I'm gonna use a 10mm socket and a small extension just to give myself some room to work with. So before you remove the front bolts, I would just repeat that process with the bolts that are behind the splash shield on the other side, and then we can take that same 10mm socket and remove the bolts on the front. So once all the bolts are removed, we can remove the lower splash shield. So our next step is to remove the first 2 bolts on the inside of our wheel well here. We're missing one down at the bottom here, as you can see, but we still need to remove this one up at the top. This is gonna allow us to pull our fender back so we can unclip our bumper on either side. So I'm gonna take a 10mm socket and remove this bolt up at the top. You should also use a 10mm socket for this one down at the bottom. Once that's removed, what we can do is start to peel the fender away from the bumper. It's gonna be held in by clips as well as adhesive. Now, if you are taking this off for the first time, it may be a little bit more difficult just to pull the fender away with the adhesive being there. But you can take a soft pry tool and you can just pry away from the bumper. If you need to, what you can do is just use that pry tool to unclip the bumper. As you can see, it's disconnected there. So then we can repeat that on the other side, and then we can unclip the middle part of our bumper. So now that we disconnected our fender, there's a little bit of hardware underneath that's connecting our front bumper cover to the crash bar as well as to our wheel well. Now there's a pop clip in the corner that we're going to disconnect using a trim removal tool. Next, we can remove that bolt that's holding the bumper cover to our crash bar with that same 10mm socket that we used before. Then we can repeat that on the other side and then unclip our bumper at the front. So before we remove the clips that are holding on the front of our bumper, we do need to disconnect this wiring harness here. We just have to press down on that tab and pull back. Just want to make sure that we're protecting all of our wiring harnesses before we pull the bumper away from the truck itself. Then we can grab a trim removal tool and start removing our clips. So next I'm going to take that trim removal tool, just like the one that we used on our grill, and we're just going to take off these clips that are holding on the front of our bumper cover. So now that all of our clips are fully removed at the front, what we can do is remove our front bumper cover. So our next step is to take off our crash bar here. We're gonna have 3 studs, and we're gonna take that hardware off with a 14mm socket. I'm also using my electric ratchet.
Then we can take off the 3 on the other side and then pull off our crash bar.
So we can remove our crash bar. Now mine's giving me a little bit of an issue just because it's been on for a long time. I'm gonna take a dead blow and just tap it off.
All right, now that we have our bumper off, to get our new bumper on, we're first going to install a couple components on there, and we're going to start off with the bracket on the front side. All right, now we're going to install our brackets. Just quick note, this is the driver's side, so when we install this, we're a little bit backwards right now. Just take note of the orientation. Again, this is the driver's side. We're going to come through, hold this in place, and we're going to start our bolt with our flat washer. Again, with a flat washer and our locking washer, and our nut. I'm going to repeat that for the other 2 bolts. And now we can tighten this down with a 16mm wrench and a 16mm socket. Just a quick little note, once you do tighten these up, you might need to go back and loosen them up to make adjustments to get them on the vehicle. And once you get all 3 of these tightened down, you can repeat for the other side. Now we can assemble our fog light, slide our bracket in, hold that in place there, and then we can slide in our bolt. And using the provided Allen key, we can tighten this down. Now we can get our fog light mounted up onto our bumper. First, we're going to take our bolt, push that in. Using our flat washer and our lock washer and our nut. Now we can tighten this down using our 14mm wrench. Once you get your fog light bracket on and your fog light mounted onto the bumper, you can now repeat for the other side. Now we can attach our filler pieces, get that lined up, and take our hardware, flat washer, and our locking nut. Now we can tighten this down using our 10mm socket and the provided Allen key. Once you get all 3 of these tightened up, you can now repeat this for the other side. Now for the filler piece, you can install this rubber protector grommet and also back here on top of here, and this is where you'll be pushing it in. just like that. And it is trimmed to fit, but again, it is not required to put this in for the installation of the bumper. Now we're gonna install our mesh guard fillers. We're gonna start off with our small one all the way on the driver's side. Get that inserted and come back through with our hardware. Might be a little bit hard to see, but we're gonna come through with our bolt and our 10mm nut on the bottom side. Same thing for the top. And now we can tighten this up using our provided Allen key and our 10mm ratcheting wrench. Once you get this guard installed, you can repeat for the other side before we get the middle one in. Now we can get our center guard in, and we'll get one bolt started. Now we can insert the rest of the bolts. Again, we can tighten these down using our 10mm wrench and the provided Allen key. Once you get these two tightened up, you can now repeat for the other bolts. All right, I did take this fog light out, just a quick show. This is the guard that's going to go in front if you're not using the fog light setup, but since we are using it, the fog light will go back in places of this. Now we have our harness for the fog light assembly, so what we're going to be doing is connecting up our relay, mounting onto the body somewhere, and then we're also going to be taking our positive and negative wire and attaching it to the battery. So we're going to pick a spot on here, we're going to go right here, using our 10mm socket. Using our 10mm socket, we're going to remove this bolt. Just to be a little cautious, we're going to remove our fuse first, and we'll set this off to the side. Using a 10mm socket, we can now loosen up our terminal so we can attach our wires. Now we can repeat the same step with the negative using 10mm socket. And tighten this back down. And now we can put our fuse back in. Now we're going to take our fog light wire leads and our connectors and route them through the engine bay as best as we can. We're just going to try to avoid any moving parts. Once you have the fog light leads routed where you need to, now you can secure it any way in which you need, just to get it out of the way of moving parts. Now we're going to be passing our button through the firewall, but first we're going to need to disconnect it right here. And we're gonna pass this end through the firewall and then pick this up on the driver's side. Again, you can pick any spot on the firewall that you need to go to, but I'm gonna pick this grommet down here. Now we can pull our wire through the driver's footwell. Now we can connect our button switch. Peel back the taping. And you can attach it anywhere you need to on the dash. We're just gonna put ours right here. And you can also take any excess wire and zip tie it and tuck it out of the way of any moving parts. Now you can get an extra Now you can get an extra set of hands setting the bumper on, but we're gonna do this by ourselves and slide it right in there. All right, getting the bumper mounted on, you might need to loosen these up as I mentioned earlier to kind of get everything readjusted and get it fitted on there. But we have all 3 studs sticking out, so we're gonna get one nut started. Now we can get our bolts on. Using our 14mm socket, we can tighten these down. Now we're going to leave these a little bit loose so we can get adjustment for the other side. But once you get those tightened down, you can repeat for the other side. All right, as previously mentioned, I did have to loosen up these 3 bolts so we can get some adjustment out of there so we can move things around and get it fitted properly. So now we're going to go back in, tighten this up with our 16mm socket and 16mm wrench. Once you get these adjustment bolts tightened up, you can now repeat for the other side. All right, this is our pre-cut fender that we just installed. We removed the entire piece. Now for your assembly, you do not need to remove the entire fender to cut it. You could cut it on the vehicle, use whatever cutting tool you need to. But if you are gonna remove it, there's a couple 10mm bolts and a couple clips that you'll just need to pop off. Once you get your fender situated with your bumper and everything lined up, you can now repeat this for the other side. Next part that we're gonna have to trim is our inner fender liner right here. So normally you would just cut this straight across, but for demonstration purposes, we're not gonna be cutting ours. We're just gonna remove it entirely so we can get the full look going on there. Now we can put our grill back on. Now we can put our clip in. And now we can attach our screw. Using a 10mm socket, we can tighten this down. Once we get those 2 in, we can repeat for the other side. We can plug in our fog light assembly. Just get our connector in there. And we can take this extra wire, zip tie it, and secure it out of the way of any moving parts. Once you have your fog light assembly plugged in and the wire secured out of the way, you can now repeat for the other side. That wraps up our install for Barricade HD2 Front Bumper with LED fog lights for a 16 to 23 Tacoma. Just remember, for everything Tacoma related, keep it right here at ExtremeTerrain.com.